welcome to our show. Finally,
Thank
we
you.
drag you here, but I'm happy to say you one of the men I like to see every morning in the gym.
So do we.
Yeah, we became gym buddies, and
Yeah.
we know each other for quite some time, many
Sure.
years, and I think uh, we both coming from the background of the Far East, let's
Right.
say.
Yeah.
You're from Japan, and I'm from Far East of my country, Russia, and basically that unifies certain features because we both know the real tough environment
Sure.
because
It's different.
it's different.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
different.
it's
Yeah.
different. Our show is all about success,
Yeah.
encouragement for people who move to Canada,
Yep.
and at certain point they made that step.
Sure.
When was it for you? When did you move to Canada?
I'm 54 now.
Right.
In 2014 now.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Victoria, Canada
Okay.
at the age of 13 after grade 8 in
Oh, okay.
Japan. And as
40 years ago.
that was back in 1984.
Okay.
And spent 4 years in a British boarding school in Victoria, and then moved on to schools in the U.S.
Okay.
And then worked for my own family, and then went back to Japan. Sort of back and forth a couple of times, and then this time it was 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
As a part of the intercompany transfer from
Yes, that's one of the
family-owned
programs we know. Yeah.
on family-owned companies, and so we.
That's interesting because basically it was like trial period, and then you went back and forth, but you already knew what Canada is. So the
Yes.
transition to Canada when you move as a business person was not that sharp, but obviously you remember some maybe episodes, maybe some shocking details.
Yeah, I mean, back in 1984, and comparing that to 2010, Vancouver has changed so much.
Yes,
I mean, the housing cost is so much more now.
Everything different, yes.
It is. And then back in 1984, I was in Victoria, and I was a student. So I didn't have the pleasure of getting myself used to Vancouver environment.
Right.
But I mean, if I'm talking about Vancouver itself and trying to establish my own business, I didn't know anybody. I mean, literally, I did not know anybody.
That's actually my question. People start business sometimes by knowing someone.
Right.
When somebody kind of creating preset conditions, and then they or what we observe, some people hesitant enough to not to do anything in terms of personal development until somebody show up and do something and kick them in the rear.
In the rear.
But I always ask those people, what if that someone will never show up?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what's going to happen to you? So that's interesting because you build a business in Canada since we start talking about business, and I know you just recently published a great book for families, right? What was your was that original business that you start building? That's how it's pretty much in the same line.
So it is. My family had been in real estate. My grandfather started it back in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And my father started expanded to west coast of the U.S. back in 1970s.
Whoa, okay.
But just before the Lehman shock happened, he sold everything, and so. But real estate is the only thing I know. I've done a couple of jobs back in Japan that were not real estate. I had couple of my own companies. Went through, did it, done it, and then finished with that kind of thing. So did a lot of things. And I think my case is unique in the sense that yes, I came here as a part of the family-owned business, working for my own family.
Right.
But the purpose of that is not to expand the family footprint of the family business. It's more of my father and I didn't get along. So
It makes two of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he wanted me to be outside Japan, and
Yes.
as soon as the sort of wealth transfer was
Yes.
available, being outside the Japanese tax jurisdiction,
Right.
I got a bit of money, but not enough to start the business. So anyway, that's how I started here. So I know what the family-owned business and that environment was. Bit of wealth accumulated, but when I started this business, I didn't have anybody that I knew in Vancouver.
Right.
Well, I knew one person, one broker that I begged my broker back in Japan to
Introduce
me to.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
So but this person was too big of a fish for my
Yeah.
business that he couldn't help me, and he had to refer me to some of his subordinates.
Right.
And so there started, and then I found my lawyers, I found my CPA, and then just about everything.
That's very interesting, because you pretty much had the right expectation from what you need to do. You said something that we have to teach certain people when they come in, like create the environment first. If you start something serious, have good relationship established with lawyers, accountants, because once you start rolling. You don't have time for that. You have to have that team in place. But many people want to take it slow. Was it slow for you, or you just jump in and never look back?
We put it this way: the money didn't grow in my case.
Well, so, money never grows.
Exactly right.
You have to work.
Yeah, I have to work, and then so yes, I had to find something. I had my back in 2010. I was just married for the second time, and had a young baby who was just born in Victoria.
Right.
I was commuting from Victoria to Vancouver on a daily basis.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's another twist for you.
Yeah.
That's something that you should never do.
Yeah. But that's a good warning for people who think commuting is easy. But commuting between island and mainland is hard.
It takes 7 hours, about 4 hours each way.
God, and I can't even imagine.
My business philosophy and the view in life in general was quite different from my father.
Was it the result of Canadian influence, of Western opposed to Eastern philosophy, life, culture, all the ingredients? Well, at least partially. I guess it, because you grew up here.
Yeah,
at least your teenage years.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I think my father was hoping for me and my younger brother to acquire the Western philosophy, Western understanding,
and come back.
And then continue and then understand both sides. But I think my younger brother by 2 years more than what he had ever expected. But I were outside his range of realm or expectation of how Westernized I was going to be. And since when I was small, I'm more of a team player. So the transparency is the key. No hierarchies, and you just show everything. Yes. As opposed to my father, who was 19, what is it, 20s, 1930s. Right. The power is the thing. The family head has all the powers, and the money talks everything. And
we can't blame that generation. It was that time, and it's basically different. What they know. And if they didn't know anything else, and let's not forget that every generation is a product of the prior experience and prior generation reflecting on a current cultural or economic situation. And Japan was different during 50s and 60s. It was explosion of economic boom and success in the world, and it's just. But my understanding of Japanese culture was they attributed and rightly so, to discipline, to survival instinct, to prove to the world that what happened was not the only reflection of Japan, and then but the discipline, the character, the stoic character of Japanese people is, and religion part too. So and I studied and I work in Japan quite a lot, so I love the country. So speaking of countries, let's switch the
Sure.
subject a little. When you move from Japan,
Yep. In
and
2010
yeah,
or 2009.
when you're a child, you just see everything as a tourist.
Right. Sure. Sure,
You're
yeah.
just curious
Yeah.
to see differences. But when you move, when you kind of, well, first of all, when you realize that Canada is part of your life, like your home country, is it now?
Canada is my home, and I am a sort of globalized person,
Right.
an individual that has a globalized perspective
Yes.
or has the capacity to understand, but with a Japanese origin.
Very nicely said, because
So,
you see everything from this global citizen perspective, but you always apply your own judgment based on your character and your principles of your life. Well, that's interesting, but obviously life throws something at you.
sure.
What do you remember, like when you moved? What was the most shocking experience of you moving to Canada? Let's go back to the childhood.
Well,
Probably it's more hilarious than adults.
Well, I couldn't speak any English.
Oh,
so,
really?
Because yeah,
Oh my God.
I thought that I could, I've been taking English classes in
Yeah,
school, right?
ESL,
Back
yeah.
then, even before I came here. So I thought I could say hello, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
But obviously I was saying hello and
Yeah.
1, 2. It's
Yeah.
like people are saying like, what are you talking about? It's like,
Yeah.
so the first day came in ESL,
Yeah.
spoke whatever. I mean, ended up with gesture and then looking through, with scribbling and everything. And second day came with, hello, my name is, that's how I started.
That's nice, interesting.
So, and then, it took me 5 years, and then even in my first year in college, I took a history class. I wrote an essay on 1 page. There was small red pen correction by my professor of my English grammar than my black ink.
But you know what? You published the book. That justifies everything. Okay, good. What this book is all about? Tell us about this book. Because you told me something, but how would you describe in few sentences what this book is all about?
The title is A Third Generation Successor Who Could Not Succeed the Family-Owned Business and Who did not succeed the family-owned business.
Quite long, but very intriguing.
Yeah, so literally what it is about the family dynamics, family dysfunctionality, as well as generational difference that you mentioned earlier, and how the family-owned businesses transition and succession is important, and so often so that you feel as a successor, you feel that you're the only one who's undergoing with this stress and difficulty, and you're by yourself out there, and nobody understands what you're going through, and you think that you're an oddball. But my conclusion is that you are not only one, and there are people around you. So reach out, and you are not, this isn't anything new to you. Right.
Because there is a source, and basically people sometimes just think that they go through unique experience.
Exactly.
But in fact, and life is a witness to that with numerous examples. But what you just said, if I understood you correctly, basically you delivered the message to people that don't think that your struggle is unique. It's okay. Many people went through this.
Sure.
And see how they succeeded and how they did it. So just keep going. I guess that's the message, right? So very, very helpful, because baby boomers right now, baby boomers and masses facing this situation. Like, okay, you have a business, you have a big or small company, especially for people like we work with. Mostly it's like small and medium-sized entrepreneurs who start and build something, but it's not that big. So maybe they have succession plan within family. Maybe they want to find somebody who will take over the business. And with multiple friends and clients in business circles, I can attest to that. That for many, everybody trying not to think about succession. It's like
Sure.
not to think about death, but it's the most certain thing in life, right?
Yep.
It's obvious, and succession is a question of not if but when.
Right, exactly.
And I think your book is clearly identifying that for people and helping them to go through this. Let's call it life crisis of sort, because it is a crisis. It's not easy.
Well, I wrote this as I wrote this at the beginning as a sort of uh, a psychological sort of a therapy to myself. And then, because I just needed to release what I was holding inside me and what I felt out. Otherwise, I was just going nuts. And then I started saying, well, if I'm suffering from this situation, there gotta be one more person or more than one person who's undergoing the same scenario. And I knew a few kids that I grew up through Rotary. That I knew through Rotary Club that my father was a member of.
Right.
That went through the same thing. So I said, well, why don't I write it, and why don't I reach it out to them and see if this book became nothing more than just a wake-up call for them, saying that don't worry, you're not by yourself.
Right.
That's more than met the purpose.
You just said something. It's very interesting. It kind of resonates with what I heard recently. The best way to help yourself, if you're trying to help it, which is hard, because you're exactly the person who is in trouble, and you're trying yourself to cure that person. But the best probably approach is to try to treat yourself as a patient who you're trying to help, as a person who you're trying to help. And then you treat your advice differently, because you really care about that person, because you want that person to survive.
Right.
You're not indifferent to the future or environment of this person, how this person will live after that implementation of that advice. So interesting, very interesting. And what you said is powerful too, because the most powerful advice is the most sincere advice, I guess. And you open yourself to the masses. No, seriously, you did it.
I did.
And the book is powerful. It's in Japanese, by the way. I want to emphasize it's in Japanese, but if audience want to find in translation, they can see the link below to the source, and they can definitely purchase and buy and translate it. But what I can tell you, this is if that's everything you live for generations ahead, that's that you live for good.
Put it this way, I mean, I've received more than one generous reaction and congratulatory letters. So the purpose has been accomplished, and I'm quite happy about it.
And that's very nice.
Yeah. So I also wrote something about how I'm looking at, well, how I face and how I treat my kids. I've got two kids that are 24 this year, girl, and 13.
Right.
Going to be 14 in June. So, how I try to face them and how I try to nurture them. Yes, they are in the 5th or 6th chapter.
And what they say?
Well, no. I mean, I just just wrote about how I'm approaching them, and hopefully, maybe this is more of my pre-death will of what I was thinking about.
It's good. It's perfect. It's your destiny in a way, because what's written you cannot remove it.
Exactly.
It's out there in this ecosystem.
So I cannot take it back either, right?
Yeah, you cannot take it back because you already said it.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we trying to conclude this meeting and
Yeah.
basically talk about, like, okay, we face numerous situations when we have people who got permanent residency. Usually it goes like stamp in the passport, they have
Yeah.
it, they live overseas. Let's narrow overseas to, let's say, Japan,
Sure.
because we have so many clients in Japan from different prefectures and different cities. And I love Kyoto. I just fall in love with Kyoto, but I also like Tokyo and some cities in between up north. So what I'm saying is, I can imagine the person. I like physically. I close my eyes and imagine they sitting in the small apartment,
Yep.
and in a very simple environment with family, ready to go or about to plan transition to Canada. What would you recommend them to do? Maybe some suggestion.
Sure. I think it also depends on what circumstances they are coming
Yeah.
to Canada for. Are they a part of a company that's been assigned here,
No,
or
I
are you
think we're talking about independence more,
in,
because
in a
with company
transplant?
they more or less predestined, because
Yep.
they know what to expect. Company taking care of them. Let's call example or advice what needed most for let's say independent immigrants.
Sure.
The
Sure.
family,
Okay.
they
Yep.
went through various business or economic programs, and they decided to, okay, it's time to move, and it will happen in the next few weeks or months. And what would you recommend them?
Well, I think this is not only on Japanese, but on any of the
Yeah,
cultures.
yeah, sure.
Um, my Masuda family has a family credo of appreciation and cohabitation or coexistence.
Coexistence, yes, that's a good word.
uh, Appreciation because we cannot live by ourselves, and then we
Yes.
cannot achieve where we are today without people around them.
Yeah.
So we need to thank them, and we need to show their show appreciation
Yeah.
for their help with us. And because we cannot live by ourselves, we need to coexist with them. And so sort of that goes into a circular thing.
Yes, yes,
But
indeed. Yeah.
so what I'm trying to say is
Mhm.
every family has their own family credo value they live by.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whether it's American, Japanese, Canadian, Russian, whatever, they are people.
Yes.
So as long as you are proud of your family value and who you are and what you stand for,
Right.
just bring that over here and just try to live and do to others that you want other people to do for you or do to you.
So basically, what you're saying is like find the balance between acceptance of the new environment and what you brought with you as
Sure.
your personal belief system, and
Exactly.
but not try to impose it on others,
No.
because that's what I probably found very amusing. Because people sometimes they go with this. Tension, I would
Sure.
say,
Sure. Yep.
in their psyche, because they say, well, they don't understand what I went through. No, everybody went through something.
Sure. Yep.
And by the same token, they sometimes say, well, I don't understand why they don't do this. Well, because they live in a new environment, and maybe they went through something also very difficult for them, but we don't know.
No.
And sometimes it's very hard for us to make any conclusion without knowing people.
Yeah.
But that notion of acceptance and also maintaining the belief system that you have. By the way, you touch base something. You take your kids to back to Japan quite often.
Every year.
Every year. Can
Yep.
you? I think that's a good closing point. Would you recommend to maintain relationship with your home country for kids?
Yes. So let me
Yeah.
just touch on
Oh no, no,
the
absolutely.
previous point. So I think that you should, when you're coming to a new country, whether
Right.
Canada or wherever else, I think you need to bring in, be natural and be who you are,
Yeah.
and try to be adapted into the new surroundings.
Yep.
But as you say, don't enforce what your beliefs are, your beliefs as the right. And
No.
also, be adaptive to
Yeah.
the new environment, because it is not the old society that you were used to.
Yeah.
It's a totally new environment that you need to get adapted,
Yeah.
get used to too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both ways. You
Both
have
ways.
to you have to you respect the new society, and so and also you try to be respected by the new society.
And I think in that sense, Canada is quite unique because I always compare Canada to the closest neighbor, America, and in many countries in Europe now following the same. I don't think it's healthy pattern. History will show. Basically, every country trying to approach all the cultures, all the communities living in that country as melting pot.
Sure.
You have to blend in. You have to be like us. You have to, and that brings, I think, devaluation of the national cultural
Sure.
uniqueness.
Yep.
And I hope, and Canada so far, very naturally, because of huge amount of immigrants, resist to that. Like I wanna really feel Japanese spirit. I can find spots here when I can talk
Yep.
and see people and try real Japanese food. And not many places exist in the world where you can do that. Same goes with other cultures. And that coexistence is a very nice mosaic. That's what I call the cultural diversity situation here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's probably the best advice. Be prepared to be individual within the society of equals and coexist and
Exactly.
respect.
Well, Canada is a very
Yeah.
accepting society,
Yes.
and so there's nothing to be ashamed of, and nothing to be afraid of.
Yes,
And
that's right.
and going back to the last question that you had,
Yeah.
if if your children are still in elementary school or after grade
Mhm.
6, I would strongly suggest and talk with your kids and talk with your spouse how how you want to raise that in a child or children to be,
Yeah.
because my younger daughter was born here, and
Right.
unless we her mom and I are both Japanese, and
Yeah.
we are bilinguals. But unless we take her back to Japan and be exposed to the society, she would be a Canadian
Mm-hmm.
person who would understand and who talks Japanese.
Yeah.
But she doesn't understand. She doesn't have the cultural or sort of a soft version of understanding,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yes.
You can read, you can speak, you can do all of that knowledge, but
Yeah.
the wisdom and the cultural value component isn't there
Yeah.
unless you frequently back.
It would almost become mechanical, which is losing the whole spirit,
Exactly.
and that's interesting.
But
Yeah.
but also when the kids are young,
Yeah.
they are adapted into the society more quickly.
Oh yes.
And then by the same token, they would lose their original background. So you have to be careful about that. But when that happens until grade 8 or so. But in my experience and from my other friends' experience, grade 9 to
Yeah.
high school, if they come here, they would speak relatively good English. They understand Canadian society,
Right.
and then but their foundation is based on the origin that they came from.
That's true.
So it's it's better. It's more difficult because of the cultural conversion, because you
Yes.
have to build that child or children have to build new culture on top of what you were
Yeah.
they were used to.
I see what you're saying, and it's easy. It's easier. Well, I guess everything is life and is easier to maintain than to restructure or
Yes.
build
Yeah.
again. And especially if there is certain, if you don't have that tendency in the family to maintain culture, to maintain language, to maintain stories, to maintain traditions, people losing what we call in cultural ethnos like center of gravity, because they have nothing to go to if situation is tough and non-standard. And probably that's one of the difficult points in today's society everywhere on the West, because they don't they don't kind of welcome that due to a development of individuality. But Homo sapiens is a human being, and the only thing exists in the world that they can actually be without thinking about only survival. We can and we must, I think, even living in Canada, bring and maintain the source and be connected to the source. And I think that's exactly how we teach our kids, or at least we have to try.
Yeah. Well, so that's that's why you have to be there for your kids.
Yeah.
And that in business, you know, as you and I know, business you can succeed one way or the other. You know,
fair enough.
It will succeed, but if your family isn't together, your business isn't going to happen. I mean, in Japanese society, fathers are known to be workaholic.
Yes.
And you know, disregard the family and all that. So the father is out there by himself, or mom by herself working, but the family is left behind, totally dismantled and disintegrated. And if you're trying to bring the family situation like this into Canada, you might as well just leave the family back home and just be here by yourself.
That's something that reminds me of the story. I was in Osaka, and we were having, I guess, second bottle of sake. And the man who was sitting in front of me, a very tough guy, the same age, but his kids were kind of younger, because I'm a yellow shooter, so my kids are in 30s and closing on 40. So what I'm saying is, I saw him crying when he got to the point of that kind of conscious realization of that's what he missed in his life. And it was very, very heartbreaking moment. And a strong Japanese man, I think he was originated somewhere in Kyoto, samurai clans, whatever, but very strong, very like a stone. But he just melted when he started talking about that. He probably realized it for the first time. And it was very interesting. And that's why I respect many cultures in the world I travel, but Japan has a special place in my heart. Thank you very much, Koji.
Thank you.
You discovered Japan from different angle for us, and you definitely the man of mystery. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arigato.
Arigato. Spasiba, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.